Alexis, David, it's so good to see you both. How are you today?
Uh,
Thank you.
hi.
Good. Good to see you.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you for taking the time. Obviously, Trigun is an incredible series. I'm excited to talk to you both about it. And David, I'd love to start with you. One of the things that really is fascinating to me is the idea that in the story there's this 2.5 year time jump, but also the
Mm,
show releasing has this sort of 2.5, 3 year time jump as well, which can be curious to assume that the recording was about that far apart as well. And
mm.
Mhm.
I'm curious to ask about sort of the evolution of Wolfwood during that time and sort of how you sort of played around with the character in that time and if there was anything new you discovered about him coming back to him in Stargaze.
Well, you can only, when there is that kind of a time in the story that isn't animated or that there isn't dialogue about, you can only really just kind of guess or infer and I think that happens in anytime you're approaching a story where there is that kind of things happen off camera, so to speak, or that aren't animated,
Mm,
that you come into the first time you see the character with
mm,
that. And for me, it's really simple, but I think powerful. And that's just, we hear in the dialogue that he's been looking for Vash
mm,
for those 2.5 years. And, I could go on about that, but that says everything,
mm.
it says after, July and that catastrophe, um, that's what he's been doing there. And when you are told in a story of what a character's doing, you also realize that they didn't do other things, right? So he did that. He could have done A, B, C, D, and E. He could have done so many other things, and he didn't. And so
Mm.
that's just very, very powerful. And so I just come in, I layer all that in and come in with that really activating. And the first time we see him in Stargaze, literally runs into Meryl and Millie, and that's his like, oh, hey, okay, here's a clue. Um, so yeah, it's just I came in charged with what he did and what he
Mm,
didn't do.
mm.
It's so fascinating. And when he does meet Marilyn Millie at that point and getting that ball rolling, the complexity of what has happened beforehand is really intriguing for us as the audience as
Yeah.
well.
Mm,
And Alexis, for Millie,
mm.
I love that even in the face of like the most tense and dangerous situations, she's just so cheerfully optimistic.
Yes.
And I think it's just a genuinely beautiful thing about the character. But I'm
Yes.
curious to know in at any point in your career where no matter how hard things may have seemed, where
Mm.
optimism ended up being the thing that got you through, where just that outlook was the thing that was the driving
Oh,
force.
I love that question. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, especially like in this career, yeah, I mean, sometimes you are definitely met with a crossroad of and a choice of I could either sit here and feel sorry for myself or beat myself up about something or be a perfectionist about it or like what pick myself apart because we're actors, we do that. Um, or I could, trust in like where I'm at. I can be optimistic for the future. I can be hopeful. I can put all my energy because it's the same amount of energy to be negative or positive. And
Mhm.
really, it just kind of boils down to the choice. And sometimes the negative route is the low hanging fruit, and the positive choice takes just as much energy, but it's harder for some reason. And so, yeah, there's been plenty of moments where I've been met with that crossroad of, okay, I could either sit here and feel sorry for myself or I could move forward. Like take the
Mm.
lesson, move forward, get ready for the next audition, get ready for the next opportunity, whatever it might be. And I feel like that is such a lesson to any kind of a creative person and a creative pursuit is that so much of this you have to believe in yourself. Maybe you can't every single day, but at the end of the day, like you are all you have in this momentum that you are creating, and that is really the only thing you have control over. And so to be able to choose optimism and hope can be a very, very powerful thing. Not always easy, but a very powerful thing.
I love that. I love that. And I think it highlights within Trigun the spectrum of personalities that are on screen, but also sort of the spectrum of emotion within each character. And like I said earlier, as audiences, we crave that complexity in
Yes.
characters. I'm curious to know for as performers for you both, what complexity sort of gives you, and is that something you are looking for in roles, these layers and substances that come
Oh,
through?
that is like a amazing immaculate buffet for actors. Like we just love that juicy stuff. And we've been talking a lot today in all these interviews about how this story leaves, it gives us so much concrete stuff to glom onto and to root for and to feel affected by, but there's also so much nuance that is never fully explained. And so it poses questions and it poses theories, and there's no right or wrong answer because it's just down to interpretation. But we've really, I mean, there's been so many little subtle moments that like you could tell yourself a whole story about a smirk or about the way somebody, there's so many beautiful I call them micro expressions in this animation that they're just little tiny blips in the moment, but they just tell their own story. And as actors, that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the love of it. Like, I think if I, when I first found acting, I didn't know how to articulate it, but what I loved was being a part of telling the story of of a character that grows, that changes, that bumps up against ideologies that challenge them, or cause them to fail. That you have to watch them try to pick themselves, whatever it is. Like that's the dream always, is to have a character that's inside of a strong story that is going through their thing and
in a very human way.
yeah, I mean, that's what we're all doing on some level, like every single one of us, so yeah, to be able to be a part of that that's what you want every time,
Yeah.
I think that is just the beauty of anime and art in general, is that we can explore these human things, but in such a heightened way. Like that's the beauty of something like Trigun, is that it is such a heightened concept. It has some really kick-ass things going on, but at the same time, we get to explore these things. I'm about to get wrapped here, and I just really quickly want to ask, I know you both have backgrounds in music and theater, and I love the music of this show, and I'm curious to know if there is a moment within the series where you both sort of saw a scene that you did, then you saw it with the music, and it sort of emotionally felt a little different, or did something different that you didn't expect the music to do.
Oh, honestly, this isn't exactly what you asked, but that opening song is a banger.
So good.
And like the very opening, I mean, I don't think we're not in like the very, very, very beginning moments, like pre opening credits of Stargaze, but that just sets up the whole show immaculately. It is so cinematic. Like it gave me goosebumps the first time I saw it, and I was like, oh, we are in for a ride. This is going to be incredible.
I mean, I will tell you, I love music, and I did musical theater, and but I've never been a big soundtrack person. Just, I don't know why. I have no idea why, but I'm talking about with any media, really. Stampede and Stargaze, I will jam that entire soundtrack on Spotify in my car. That opening number is amazing. But yeah, there's little moments of music throughout that, it's another part of telling the story. And they do it so well here, and you can't have it without it. It's one of those things where all the elements come together for a single purpose, and like that's the greatest thing you can experience.
Just another layer of that immersive substance to get into the world. I'm getting wrapped here, Alexis, David. I appreciate you both taking the time. Like I said, I love this show. I love talking to you guys. I hope we get to do it again soon. Thank you so much for your time. Talk soon, guys.
Thanks so much. Yeah.